Some say Africa's golden era is gone. A time when great African kings and queens built their dreams into empires, stretching across the continent and beyond. But we say a new era is upon us. A new set of African kings and queens are on the rise. Driven by the same wealth of character as the kings and queens before them. Building new empires of enterprise with the right partnership. So rise up wherever you are, new kings and queens of Africa. Embrace your full potential and be proud of your heritage.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Welcome, peace and blessings. I'm Agyei DaAfrican, and I'm here with a new live stream called New Africans. And I was called to do this in my spirit because the individuals that are coming, I was actually the minister giving the lesson when they got their African names. Man, and when I tell you, when I found out that I was given the lesson when these brothers and sisters were getting their African names, I said that put pressure on me because this is going to be something that they remember for the rest of their lives. When you cross over that river of an old learning to a new you. And the first thing I saw when they got their African names, I started yelling, "There are some new Africans in the building. There are some new Africans in the building." And I said to myself, I have to be a part of this journey with them. So I'm deeply, deeply connected. And so I wanted to introduce them to the broader community. And one of the things that we have never had, or I haven't seen, where individuals actually share their step-by-step process in going towards the awakening, going towards the experience of the divine self, going towards kingdom building in our community. That's Black nation building. And so I'm going to bring them on and let them introduce themselves, and so we can get to this conversation. How are the new Africans doing this evening?
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey.
How you doing? How you doing? Now, as we get started, I want y'all to, and hopefully you remember, let everybody know your African name, the meaning of your African name. I thought that this was like deeply important. One, because I have a lot of friends talk to me about these processes. A lot of friends talk about the journey, but a lot of people are timid in that process. And so I said, we all, we're in a society, in a situation now where we all are finding our deeper selves, that more profound self. So if you can, say your name and what inspired you to start this journey. And now wait, before we begin, we did ask the ladies to go first, but they were kind of aloof. No, we don't want to go first. And so now my man who's about to speak, he's the brother's brother. And he knows. Now let the sister have it. But when they said they wasn't going to do it, he said, "I got this." So Azola, let them know your name, the meaning, and talk about what inspired you to start this journey, my brother.
Yes, yes. How you doing? Peace. My name is Azola. It basically means knowledge, um, and basically what started my journey here. I kind of bumped into it on accident. Actually, um, I bumped into the shrine in the Black Madonna, and I came for my first visit. And after I left for my first Sunday, I've I've only missed two Sundays since then, and it's been about a solid year and a half. So just after my very first sermon, I was connected, and then I
Mm,
decided to go deeper once I decided to actually join the church. After about a solid year of being there, I felt like it was time to do it. I had my friend Nia, she was in it, and I was talking to her about it. She came and she joined like with no hesitation, and so that's kind of what pushed me to actually do it and actually just kind of start the journey.
And so how did you hear about the shrine and that notion?
I went to the Malcolm X festival
Mm,
years and years back before COVID, and that gentleman
mm,
was just talking about a bunch of cool stuff to do on the West End. cultured stuff. I had only been here a few months in Atlanta, and so I went once a few months after that, back in 2015, and I just hadn't got a chance to go back. Once I decided to go back, it was COVID, and one day coming back from the grocery store, I seen that the the gates were open. I figured I would go in and ask, if they were having having a service, and I walked in there for my first service.
From then, do you remember any one thing about any of the sermons or the lessons, the words that sat down and said, you know what, this really resonates with me. I want to invite my friend Nia to hear what I was hearing. Was there anything particular that stuck out?
Well, I was never really into Christianity as much, right? So I was just going for the vibe. I was going for the
Mhm,
community. I was going for the fellowship. I was
mhm,
going for the music, for the drums. I was going for the whole cultural experience more than anything else. It wasn't until past the bishop started correlating a lot of the stuff in the Bible to African traditions that really piqued my interest. And once I seen that it was broken down to me in a way that has never been explained to me before, I thought to myself, like, where am I going to get this knowledge at? Like, now that I understand that it's here, where else am I going to get the knowledge? If it's here, I need to just go ahead and dive into it right here. And so that's what made me just continue to keep coming back. Once, once I started to realize that he was connecting the dots, with African principles.
one of the things that always for a lot of us when and this old school heads, um that was one of the things that we all said, where else can I get this? You mean you're rewriting and redefining what Christianity is. You are reclaiming the historical value of the whole process, and you implementing it into nation building. uh I can't go nowhere else and get this. And so
Yeah.
it was yeah. And so even after a lot of individuals, who may move away, and this is why the live streaming and we also have an online thing, Bill Okuta is important as we move in these places, is because liberation of black people has to be a global experience versus in the four wall scenario, because you can't go anywhere else to get
Hmm.
what's going on. So I definitely get that. Sister Najuma, you ready?
Ready. So I'm gonna give you my full African name, which is Najuma Ibarisha Asiya, which means she abounds in joy. I respect the ancestors, and God has favored me. Um, and so how I got to the shrine, I actually, I feel like this is a loaded question. I think that I've always had like a foundation with being connected to the creator, just because growing up with a very orthodox Christian lifestyle. And as I went off into my journey and my rebellion, I noticed that there was something that was missing. And through grief, wanted to kind of really connect to spirituality. Also, a little different. I have children, so I wanted them to have that foundation as well. So when I moved to Atlanta, I was kind of looking for a community as well as something that I think would feed their soul. I made a conscious decision to not return back to my roots because there were just questions that I had, and I don't think that they could have answered it. I read our founder, Jaramogi Abebe Ajamin's BCN, as well as the Black Messiah. And then I visited actually last year, and there was a ritual of remembering who you were. I came myself and I said, I need to have this every day. I need my children to be connected to this because I need for them to know who they are and whose they are. And so it was a family decision. We came back. I want to say it was it Pentecost Sunday? No, it was Palm Sunday. And then the next week we joined as a family because it was a decision. I mean, I went to different churches, and the African spirituality was missing, that component.
Mm.
And so there were things, again, that I had asked at a very young age. There were things that didn't align with what I was given. And so it made sense. And I felt that the reason I came to Atlanta of being obedient, this was the answer. This was the reason why. So
And
yeah.
you made a statement, conscious community. I wrote it down. I kind of paraphrased it. What was the or has been the experience from being connected to a conscious community versus just a religious community?
Woo.
Is that heavy?
No, it's not heavy at all, because just going back like on my background, I always lead and tell people I come from Oakland, California. We are very different people. We're already conscious, right? And so having that background of Black Panthers and having my grandmother being a complete activist, and I feel, whoo, my name, right? Me saying that, me respecting the ancestors, I feel her with me right now. And I, so one, I can say that growing up with that and having the religious background that I had did not align with who I was and my foundation of familial foundation, ancestor foundation, legacy foundation. And so for the work that I do now, what I feel I am called to do, um, it aligns within the legacy and what I'm trying to teach my children, as far as being agents of change, as far as advocating, as far as liberating their people. And so that is a complete difference, because that's not what I had growing up. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, you did. Again, one, not having it growing up and making sure that your kids get it. I know for me, in my personal journey, because I'm not just going to ask you guys to share. And trust me, Nia, you coming next. I'm letting you warm up. I know for me, that was the it. When it said what was the thing that happened or the event that happened in my life that made me start this journey of seeking that there was something greater than myself than what I was being told, was when, and I was young. I was 18 with a baby. I said, so I'm sitting there and I said, I wanted to be able that when my son began to ask me questions about life, I wanted to ask the hardest question that comes in only three letters. And
Why?
that was exactly why.
Yeah.
When they looked, and I sat down and I was like, wow, trying to figure out, I need to be a man for him. I was a man for everybody else. And I was like, oh, so wait a minute. There are mysteries in the universe that I don't know. There are things about me that I don't know. And I want to be able to, when he says, Daddy, why? And it doesn't matter what goes after that why. I wanted to eat. If I didn't know the exact answer, I needed to at least create a pathway for him to get to the answer that is being discovered in the moment in which we in. Because sometimes with our understanding of the universe, things change. And so I wanted to make sure that whatever information that I was able to give him was there first. And so I get that part of the children. Now, Nia,
Hey, hey,
hey,
hey.
hey, hey, tell the community the name, and let's
Okay.
talk about your experience starting
All
this
right.
journey.
Last but never least, my name is Nia Ife, and Nia means purpose. It's the fifth day of Kwanzaa. And Ife, I believe, means lover of the fine arts, respect to the fine arts of dance, which is very appropriate because I love the art of dance. I would say that I joined my beloved friend, uh, Azola, joined. Well, he wasn't joined yet, but he invited. I'm not sure if there was an actual invitation. Usually with him, I just attach myself. So
That's all, I'm coming
albeit,
with you.
yeah, he was telling me about it, and I knew of the bookstore, of course, because I'm from Atlanta, and the bookstores have been around forever. And and I was like, oh, I would love to try this. But the reason why I was so intrigued about going was because I need I was hoping that someone could help me for two things: fill the gap on the things that didn't make sense
Mm,
in the literature of the Bible. And the other one is to join a community,
mm,
to be part of something and to be held accountable. So I that those two things were something very dear on me. I grew up in a private school, Christian household, first family, the whole nine yards, and something just like make it make sense, you know. And uh, I believe one of the first few sermons was just putting Jesus in a different light, the revolution,
Mhm.
different things just made more sense. It's just like before, it's like, okay, stories, I get it. But now it's a historical story that I could be like, okay, this makes logical sense on why and what happened and during these facts and different things like that. So I was sold. I think I joined like 2 weeks later or something. I think I my first ha I just hit my anniversary. My first service was like the Sunday before Valentine's Day, and I joined a couple of weeks later. So, and it's been a great journey. I have established relationships with wonderful, beautiful Black people. I'm so proud of the level of education and the comforting, and it's just the love that you want from a community. And they hold you accountable, where we all believe in giving back and investing to our church with our gifts. So everybody makes sure that we're all putting that in, and I like that as well because I can slide off to the side sometimes. But yeah,
right.
so those are the reasons. Those are the two reasons that I joined, and it has been a wonderful experience learning more and just getting a different perspective, even with um, Jeramoji's perspective, and just to think about where he was at that time period. So it's wonderful. I like it. Really gives me, it's like learning, like when you go to a HBCU, like you get the same education, but it's with African Black influence. So that's how
Mhm.
I really feel
Yeah.
about the church. I'm getting the same education, but now my people are included, and we exist in that story, that written history.
And one of the things, like you said, filling in the gaps and um, in my journey, I knew I was always greater than what I was told because it was always I could hear ancestors, I could feel ancestors, and always thought, well, there was nothing I couldn't do. When I was a kid, I used to watch Bret the Hitman Hart on WWF, and I'm probably way older than y'all, so y'all don't know who Bret the Hitman Hart is. But he would say a phrase: "I'm the best that is, I'm the best that was, and I'm the best that will ever be." And so as a
Mhm.
kid, I kept saying I'm the best it is, was, and will ever be, but I could not find that location that would fortify a Black child. And this is the kid in me. This is since elementary school. I would always say that phrase. And so I would go out into the world and prove that to myself that I was and it didn't matter what it is. I'm going to be the best myself that is. I'm going to be the best self that I ever was, and I will be the best that will ever be. And so coming into a spiritual journey or an institution of a community who believed that, wait a minute, your power that is within you is endless. You have no limits. And so we need to nation build. So let us get to that part of you that knows that you're limitless. What was the experience for y'all when y'all were coming into the conversations within the community that you are limitless beings with infinite access to infinite wisdom and energy to accomplish all that God can place within you? What was that like when you was like, you know what? Yeah, that's me.
I've always felt like that. So that's always,
And
yeah,
and
it's
having a
always,
because one of the things you
yeah.
added was join the community. What was it like saying, "Wow, I'm in a community that thinks exactly how I feel"? How that mean? What that mean to you?
Yeah, now it was like, yay, finally, it does exist. It's like I can't be the only one thinking like this out here. Like, definitely made me feel, it was just a wow moment. It was like, yay, finally get to, all right, just praise to that.
Yay.
Yeah, make it make sense. I'm glad other people and are living it and believing it and investing in it. I love seeing the children interact and they're growing up in it. So that's a big deal. It's just,
Azola, what about
I
you?
think
Pardon, say that again.
In terms of being a part of a community that speaks on how you are absolutely limitless. How does that, and I can make it personal as being a father and having your son in a space in a community that says you're an infinite being. How does that make you feel being able, or what was the feeling when you realized I'm sitting in a empowered community for real?
Well, the one thing that I noticed, in the church is, tapping into the ancestral energy, right? And so that, if that energy is pretty much limitless, tapping into, recent ancestors and ancient ancestors, right? So knowing that you have that communal, that your ancestors, right? That communal energy that's still abundant, that may not be present in front of you, but it's still here, right? In the ethers, in the realm that we're in. I mean, it's great. It makes you feel like you're never really alone. You can always tap in and download that information, and you can always communicate, right? In a limitless, perspective, right? So, your dreams, in your prayer, you can talk to God, you can talk to the cosmos, your ancestors, 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's always limitless, right? So that connection is kind of how that energy is kind of how I connect, the limitlessness with the ancestors, right? And being able to tap into that energy, effortlessly, and being connected to the source.
Let y'all know that we have
think
a lot of members watching, saying welcome new Africans. Welcome new Africans. Oh, Sister Najuma, how did it feel when you walked into a space where you walked into a community where everybody was limitless?
I think it was a relief because growing up, there was always ceilings put on me or boundaries. And so I think because of that and having that, and I think that's why it's so important. We talk about as being parents, right? It's so important that you tell your children that they're limitless because when you tell them that they have boundaries as a child, that affects the rest of their life. So coming in and feeling inferior in the workspace, feeling this way, you feel like you're always challenging that. But then when you come into a community that says, no, you are limitless, it feels good. It's like, oh, I can actually be me. I can actually, the things that I was questioning, the things I wanted to do as a child, I can now do that. I can excel. There is no limit to the gifts that I have. And being able to be that example to my kids, I know that they're going to be different beings growing up because they understand that. And it's with everybody in the community. So I feel like I'm growing up in a way, in a sense, and accepting the fact that, okay, there is no limit. And the whole time I've been told that there was. And again, we go back to saying this is why I didn't, when I was searching to have that foundation in my children, I can't go back there because if I do, my kids are going to feel inferior. They're going to feel like they can only excel to a certain amount of themselves. They can't be their whole being. And so even when we're talking about, I think Nia brought it up in regards to having the different view of Jesus, right? And you read in the Bible, oh, you're going to do greater things. But then if you're putting a limit on me, how can I do those
How
greater
can I do it?
things?
Yeah.
And those other, disciplines. Here, I can say I can come in a Messiah spirit and have that same continuous spirit to do greater things and
well
try to say.
said.
What was that, Nia?
Hmm?
Well said. Well said.
Thank you, my sister.
One of the things that that is always said in our community is that every black child that is born from a black woman or black Madonna is a black Messiah waiting to discover his inner divinity. And so the limitless power and the spirit that is the creator is ourselves. So with that being said, and how you led into that, and talking about everybody talking about the limitlessness. When you hear the words, the divine self, what does that? What did you see as it before? If you ever heard of it before, and how do you see yourself now? So before you understood what the divine self is, and you looking in the mirror or seeing yourself, like you said, people put limits on you. And so now, wait a minute, you're talking about the divine self. And so now you're talking about being able to see the divine self in you and your children. And Nia, you was like, I always felt great. And so now you have a community who's driving you to even be greater in terms of the divine self. So how do you see that the term, the divine self, before and then?
Well, for me, I think as far as with my community, I to be strong enough to make an imprint in my direct community, starting with the church. That that's something that I would like to. I've always wanted to do. Um, the story of how it becomes, I'm intrigued to see how it comes about. Can't wait to go through it.
I
But
got you.
that is definitely where I believe I will be most powerful is within my church, really putting my all and my divinity into my church community for sure, for sure. But I, like you said, I've always had that thought of or the God in me. That means I'm God too. I always, when I read it, even with maybe maybe not the white Jesus, maybe the Hispanic Jesus, one all the way white, but with the light skinned Jesus, you know, um, when
They gave
I
him
was
so
reading
many shades.
right, even when I was reading it, then I knew the way I thought to myself was that means I'm a God as well, and I have that in me. Now I still struggle with following, so I'm working on that on my ears and listening to my spirit and following through. But like I said, I'm very intrigued to see this story, how it plays out, and um, how it comes out for sure. Okay, I wish I
My,
could see me back. I should have took my
you, you should
cup.
blowing your phone.
Yeah, clean the
Oh,
camera a
Clean it
little
up.
bit.
that better.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, so
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah. You just woke us up right there. Like light hit.
There.
Well,
Yeah.
Reverend Agyei,
Yes.
you also you have the African Speaks as well.
Mhm.
So watching that and seeing the divine self pieces that you had, the different chapters. I remember, I want to say it was maybe chapter 3. I wrote a letter to my mother, and I was mad.
Mm,
Y'all, I was going off on my
mm,
mother
mm.
because I was pissed because, again, how dare you put a limit on me? How dare you not allow me to understand that I was divine, that I was a
Mm,
divine being? How, you're saying, oh, I'm created in God's image, but I share no parts of that. I'm not connected to the source. Are you
mm,
saying that? I don't have the power to decide when I'm going to actually heal from different traumas, not just being like the love and the passion. So I was pissed a little bit
mm,
because I was like, well, wait a minute. I think that in the process of me rebelling, because I can be accountable to say I was rebelling a lot of the times, it moved me into a space of just surviving and trying to thrive into this system instead of operating in my divine self. Yeah. So
Before you we continue, what she speaks on, if nobody knows, I do it again. And the African Speaks is a show that I do on Tuesdays, and we bringing that back tomorrow. So tomorrow night I will give a chapter, and it goes right now, it goes from chapter 1 to chapter 13. And so I've been, and I was, again, when we talk about having ancestral downloads, and that could be a conversation of how do you experience your ancestral downloads. And when we start dealing with that, because this will go on for a while, and we're gonna break down this journey in segments, and have these experiences and share these experiences. But the African Speaks was a download, and then bringing in the divine self, because a lot of people, when we talk about uh, worship, last thing we even consider or even discuss is, what does that journey to the divine self even look like? How do I experience it? And so I broke it down in chapters so that I could even understand what I was going through. As powerful and limitless that I feel, I said there's still more. There is still more understanding for me to get. So I totally appreciate you giving me a shout out.
yeah, I'm telling you, chapter 3, I was pissed. I was pissed at my mama. Wrote her a letter. I
Yeah.
was like, I can't believe that you didn't tell me this, and how you're supposed to be. Oh man, we went. I never gave it to her because I was scared. Still scared. That's my mama.
Well, that's
But
your mama. That's respect.
but
That's
yeah,
respect.
I was like, okay, I need to get on this journey
Mm.
because I need to have that in my toolbox of knowing who I am.
Who
So
you are
yeah.
and whose you are, and I always say now is why you're here. So who you are, who's you are, and why? Because that's that. I know I'm divine. I know I belong to the Most High. There is nobody above. He has complete sovereignty over everything that I do. So now the question is, what am I here to do? Because I'm not entering into the experience of the divine self for no reason. So what reason? And then as the sister was saying, he was saying the basis of bringing back a divine community. What can I, when I pour myself and my divine self into something, it's going to be in my community. And then we'll talk about later as we go how that community goes from a neighborhood to the diaspora. And that's again what the things, because I said every time I'm called to do something and I hear it and it's a download, I produce it. So when y'all was sitting there, real talk, this situation happened. I don't want to cry because I get emotional. I'm all emotional when I'm into these things. When I saw y'all getting y'all names, and I was like, man, I get to preach behind them. This is a beautiful thing. I can't wait. Yeah, we got new Af. I went, and you know how usually the pastor comes out and he slowly brings it into it, nice and slow and calm, and then he goes crazy. I was like, I couldn't go crazy. I mean, I went straight to 0 to 100 in 3.2 seconds. And I said, these new Africans definitely, we're gonna pave this way and make this happen. My brother Zola, what was it about the phrase the divine self that actually caught your eye, or what new understanding did you gain when it came to you?
I guess I got new understanding once I started to tap into more of my divine self. Once I started to have more of an understanding, of my inner divinity, right, and how to tap into it, how to make it more immense.
Mm,
As I started to become just more one with the word and with the sermons. I've just allowed myself and my frequency, my vibration to enhance and step up, right? So being able to feel, my inner divinity rising, right, and then being able to realize it, right, feel it, and then being able to move with that energy right at the forefront of the brain,
mm,
and kind of making it a part of my bringing it with me through my everyday struggles and my everyday life's ups and downs, not just knowing that it's there, but actually bringing it with me throughout my days, and tapping into it when I feel like I need it. That was a big thing for me, was knowing it, but not actually bringing it past my altar. I meditate, I pray on it, I talk to God, and then afterwards I'm just out moving without it, right? So understanding that it's there, understanding that I can tap into it, right, and then understanding that I can exponentialize it, right, by just going deeper with my spiritual practices, meditations, the words, discernment, coming and being present. I've noticed that just my divine self has definitely become just greater, right, and
mm,
my understanding of it, the feeling of it, just the whole nine. It's just much deeper now. That I've had more of a community, right? And having that community, kind of reminds me, is seeing the elders and seeing everybody. It reminds me of the community that I have that's here in the cosmos, in the microcosm, and the macrocosm, right? So to use all of that, right, is a divine thing. And so I've definitely just noticed how my inner divinity has definitely gotten just much stronger. I've brought it throughout my days with me, and tapping into it when I need it, right? Is definitely something that I've taken away from this journey so far.
Now, the African can go some. Brother, you just tapped in that, and when y'all tap into me, I'll talk for hours. I'm sorry, but I told you I wasn't gonna be here long, so we're gonna chill. We definitely got to get into that subject of the cosmic community. You know what I'm saying? To understand that this is not just a physical community here, but there's a cosmic community, and the fact that I'm not just a human being, I'm a cosmic being who has access to the cosmic community. So in that understanding that self, the divine self, that there are levels to this understanding. So there's always transformation, always development. There's always change until you walk outside and you feel the breeze. And I always tell myself that I'm that breeze. I see a bee, I can't get scared in. I'm that too. When you sit down and say, I am that, and I can point at it, I can feel it, it's a part of me. That cosmic community experience, man, there's no way, like you said, bringing it into the frontal lobe of your thinking. That means this goes before anything else. Now, here's a question for those who are parents. How does that feel to have your kids in the environment? Because, brother, your son is always trying to keep up with the older kids. Always trying to keep up with the older kids. How does it feel to have him and I always say, if you can teach a kid his limitlessness in the beginning of his journey, what won't he accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel to have him sitting in the environments and the intricacies of the divine self being broken down to where a kid can understand it?
Well, I mean, I think it's wonderful. When I first started school, when I first started, my journey in church, going to church with my grandmother, it was white Jesus everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So, for the simple fact that my son gets to start his journey off in this energy is wonderful. I felt like I've been progressing and doing pretty well. But if he can start off with this foundation from the beginning, it's amazing to see where he could go, and like that limitless perspective is definitely attached to him, right? So knowing that he's getting the energy, the foundation, the elders, and he's getting the right material, and he's getting it from the right people. I mean, yeah, I feel very comfortable bringing him to church, leaving him here, and bringing him and making sure that he's a part of the things at the church. It's you have to be careful what your kids are consuming nowadays, right? And so having this foundation is amazing, and this is what I was looking for, right? Which made me come into the church in the first place, right? So, I kind of, I've kind of was expecting, something beautiful to happen, right? And so it's just all been unfolding, and it's been better than I anticipated, because I didn't know, what I was going to get in the church. I knew I was going to have a community, but I didn't know to what extent that it was going to be, right? So having him, and bringing him bringing him to the food pantry, just all the things in the church is definitely something is easy on the mind.
Najuma?
Well, I have 3, and they're all at different stages. Woo. That 16-year-old, y'all pray for me. But I see a change. First of all, I say that because before, she was really the motivation for me to find a community and for me to give my children a foundation in God. And so, because I seen the way that her life was completely different, just the world around them, right? Different influences. And they were different from when I was growing up, 14, 15, 16 years old. And she's completely changed her attitude, There's still some, natural 16-year-old stuff we got to deal with. But I can tell you that what I do see in her is her disciplines and the practices that she utilizes, wanting to have an interest in reading the Bible, wanting to have a prayer life. That's something that was foreign that we didn't talk about 2 years ago, or really even 6 months ago. Now, my boys, they some different beings. They impress me. Um, those younger two, Romello and Romani, especially Romello, my middle boy, they're children, right? They have their ways, but Romello just has like a very, very different being about him. It's like he is just so connected to the creator. And so for him to be able to be a part of a community that encourages that,
Mm.
I can't, I'm in awe.
Yeah.
My last boy, because they have had different traumas, losing a parent very early on, and having just me that they're looking at. Um, I think that it affected my youngest the most, which has affected sometimes his behavior of things. But I'm just gonna be honest.
Yeah, I trust
But
me, I've been a part of that.
look. And going up to the school and having a conversation about how do you treat Black women,
Mm.
having a conversation about, his divinity and him being his divine self. Can he be his best self? First of all, the staff looked at us very differently because it was like, whoa, wait a minute, what's she talking about in this meeting, right? But then also for him to have an understanding and for him to show up differently in those school settings, I know it's because of what he's getting. Now he gets a different set from us adults because he's in children's church. So, them talking about having a God confidence and understanding they have God power. Like, I don't hear like 7 and 6-year-olds, 9-year-olds talking about that type of stuff. Like, to the point where I will get calls from their teachers telling me, you have a different child. Like, this child is praying before he goes to a test. And he's saying, I have to pray because I got to bring my God conscious, and I'm STEM and I'm science. I am the technology and I am the. And so it amazes me. I'm in awe and I love it. And again, we talk about having a conscious community and pouring into our youth. And one of the things, we talk about that I've heard continuously is passing that baton. And so I think that when you are pouring into the children that type of way, you don't have to live in fear of how your community will look in 10, 15, 20 years because you are truly creating and pouring into children that will be agents of change because they have a different understanding of the world around them and themselves. So they're going to show up differently every time.
One of the things that if you're watching again, I do this is what I do. And so she talked about a Keebaland Inspirational Sundays, the lessons. And one of the things that in the phrase, and I make it simple, like you said, I'm STEAM, I'm the STEM, and they know it. I am God's science, I'm God's technology, I'm God's engineering, I'm God's artwork, and I'm God's mathematics. I am made from the divine being, which is the creator, and that makes me a divine being. And being able to give those to kids, I know in my personal experience with the youngest, one of the things that made it so easy was explaining to him what good fruit is and having him express his love and his thoughts of his mom and painting the picture that mom is a beautiful tree and you are the fruit from that tree. So when you go out, it's like a fruit falling off the tree. When someone goes to that fruit, are you good fruit? And when I mean I could tell the understanding was there because when he had a bad day, I look at him like, so brother, was you good fruit today? And he would immediately start crying. He gets sad and realizing who his mom is to him in his heart and the fact that I didn't go out and I didn't represent the way I was supposed. No, RJ. And which is touching. It's touching. Now, with Sister Nia, Miss Mary to be.
Ha
Right.
ha ha ha.
And so we had, and that's the beautiful thing about the dynamics when I was saying, the new Africans are in the building because everybody is functioning on a whole different level of life. And so knowing that, if you haven't watched Nia, if you haven't watched The African Speaks, and you haven't seen the section where we talked about uh, uh, the divine woman, the divine feminine, and in the divine feminine, we talked about womb healing. And the woman has the womb of the spirit, the womb of the mind, the womb of the heart, and then the productive system. So in this space where you're reaching for the depth of the divine self, because there's layers, Mrs. Mary to be, what do you see being able to have? Because then you're talking about your scenario, you'll be able to have your kid to be able to be born in your divineness in the spirit within the community. How do you see that happening? Woo!
Oh, we were
Let's
just
make
talking about that yesterday, Mia.
futuristic stuff. Go ahead. And I'm the baby whisperer. I hold everybody's baby. Go ahead.
To be determined.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm part of the story, still looking to see how it plays out. So just trying to be the best that I can be. Yeah.
Gotcha. And again, I told you guys I won't keep you here long. And hopefully we get to do this every week where we'll break it down. Next week, the conversation is going to be about connecting. It'll start with connecting our heritage with our spirituality. And so our traditions with our spirituality. And how does that affect the transformation in terms of that? I know, and I'll share the story with you when it came to me, and again, meditate on it, and then we'll build from there. I used to teach in the nursery when I first got here. Sister Mother Odebayo, who saw me, and I would come to the church all the time, and I would spend hours inside the nursery before my first class. And when I decided, when I was called to become a full-time missionary and do this thing 24 hours a day, she said there's a spirit on that man, and he has a spirit for Black youth, and he's going to be under the nursery. And that was I had never heard of, and they said this was like really one of the first times where a brother came directly into the nursery. So it was a spirit, and of course that was 30 some odd years ago, and I'm still raising children. She used to make a saying, and she said, we need those Africans who are not afraid to take over a slave ship and row us back to Africa. And she would look at the kids in their eyes and say, are you that African? And most people didn't understand when I called myself Agyei DaAfrican, it was because I had forgot those teachings. And at one point I thought she was only teaching it to the kids until I realized, no, dude, you got to make a choice too. And so the same lessons that the kids get when you elevate those understandings, we get them too. So this journey is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I truly appreciate y'all for sharing. Before we go, did y'all anything else you wanted to share, add, or say? Give a shout out to your mama.
No,
No,
love
I'm
you.
good, man. But I'm glad I was able to attend the meeting today, man.
I appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you. And we are looking again at the, I don't know if y'all noticed the video when we came in. There are new Africans in the building. And so it means something different than it's never meant before. And so I truly appreciate y'all doing it. And y'all have a blessed evening, and we will see you next week. And to those Africans, come on and join the journey. One love.
Peace.
Some say Africa's golden era is gone. A time when great African kings and queens built their dreams into empires, stretching across the continent and beyond. But we say a new era is upon us. A new set of African kings and queens are on the rise. Driven by the same wealth of character as the kings and queens before them. Building new empires.